Welcome to Rockstar Doctor Life. I'm Melissa Longo, and each episode, my guests and I will bring you fresh, fun ways to rock your life as a health professional and create a business that aligns with who you are and the life you want to live. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Rockstar Doctor Life. As always, I am intrigued to have a conversation about all things life and practice with someone who has been in practice for 35 years. But before we get into that today, I have a special quick announcement. Jane Clinic Software is one of our newest show sponsors, and I want to give them a special shout out. They have been amazing to work with over the last couple of years. Jane is an all-in-one practice management software that provides online booking. They also do all kinds of administrative scheduling, integrated payment processing, electronic charting, insurance billing, and so much more. I've been using Jane for the last couple of years, and I love their customer service. They are always able to help me figure anything I need out, and it's simplified my life and practice in a really dramatic way. So if you're looking to explore Jane or working with this kind of system, I want to give you this code, Rockstar Doc. You'll see it in the show notes, and you can get 1 month grace period at any given time just to check them out and sign up. So check it out, friends. All right, welcome to the show, Dr. Alan Chong.
Thank you, Melissa. That's awesome. Thanks for the invite.
It's always fun for me to talk to people who've been in practice at all stages of life, but particularly the really seasoned docs. I mean, we were talking in the pre-chat that this past weekend, I celebrated 20 years of practice. You're celebrating 35. And, you know, before we get into some of the lessons and gifts that practice has shared with you, I'd love to, a really quick summary for the listeners to get a sense of who you are. So tell us, who's Dr. Alan Chong?
Well, I am a heart-centered practitioner, yet I evolved to run a very technical, if you will, practice. I own 2 clinics, actually a clinic within a clinic, so 3 clinics, Center for Chiropractic Care in Calgary here, Alberta, Canada. And then about 14, almost 15 years ago, I had a shift in practice, and it was a big, huge challenge. Opened Calgary Spinal Decompression Center, which is really a spine, non-surgical spine clinic. So that's the part that I say is really technical. It's very, diagnostic, and I see some of the toughest cases in all of the Calgary region. In fact, people drive for miles to come and see me. So that wasn't something I expected when I first started to practice, but that's who I am. I'm a father of 2 adult children. In fact, my daughter graduates. She actually graduated. She convocates from McGill this weekend, so that's super exciting. And my son is in his last year at Dalhousie University in Halifax in business. So I have a varied background, and I just still love practice after 35 years.
Mm. And there's so many things that you just said that I want to dive into. But first, I want to remind myself to give you a special shout out. The reason that you and I actually connected was because of one of my girlfriends was a patient of your decompression practice in Calgary.
Right.
And, just said to me, wow, I found a great chiropractor and I had really great care and I was really grateful. And I think I reached out to tell you, like, hey, good job, because when you're in our profession, you want your friends and loved ones to have great experiences. We want everyone to have a great experience, but particularly, sometimes people have not so great experiences. So when something goes really, really well, I always want to acknowledge the doctor. So thank you for taking care of her. And I'd love to hear how your practice evolved, to say that you're a heart-centered doc, and I want to learn a little bit more about what that means to you, but how did you evolve to get into the decompression practice? And if it's something that's really technical?
True. I started practice like many of you listeners, straight out of college, super keen, figured I knew a lot, but I realized I had a lot to learn. However, a lot of the learning was the hard way, the school of hard knocks. And so, I was very fortunate back then. The landscape of chiropractic was that there weren't nearly as many as chiropractors as there were now. In fact, when I first started in Calgary, there were just 100 chiropractors. I might have been the 101st chiropractor. Now there's, in Calgary alone, there's probably over 500 chiropractors. And so I was fortunate to be offered ownership into 2 clinics within my first year out. And that was the year of the Olympics, 1988 Calgary Olympics. And so what happened was I got into this groove and basically had to follow the format that was laid out for me. And so I was making good money. I was practicing, but it didn't feel all natural to me. It felt sort of like someone else's practice still for a number of years. And it was family practice. And that's great. I saw a lot of kids at the time. I was Dr. Pops to the kids and just tried to do my best. Then what happened was, a now friend and business person introduced me to the concept of decompression because he himself had hurt his back and said, Alan, you've got to look at this because there's not many centers in Canada, period. And that's where I actually explored the decompression. And I personally use the still very acclaimed DRX 9000. It's gone through various iterations now, but I had to make the big, huge decision. I said, Laurent, I don't want to change my practice. Yet deep inside, there was this urge to change my practice.
So you basically expanded. And so you kept the practice that is the one that you were familiar with and what you loved. And then you explored opening up a new facility so that you could offer the decompression to people as well. There's a way that you sort of blended both of those worlds and that dichotomy that you were feeling.
Absolutely, Dr. Melissa. However, you have to appreciate it was a very gut-wrenching decision because I thought, well, for one, I'm going to have to go from my more holistic oriented practice, but believing in alignment and function. And this is the way I explain chiropractic now, because I feel, Melissa, that chiropractic is still, and it's very frustrating, still is one of the most misunderstood mainstream professions in the world. Virtually every day, I am frustrated by the fact that people don't understand chiropractic. Now, I'll give an example. I say to someone I meet, oh yeah, I'm a chiropractor. And they go, oh, I'm glad I don't have back pain, or glad I don't have back problems. And I'm saying, well, if you have a spine, chiropractic is for you because it's about the health and alignment and function of your spine. And they go, oh, no. When something happens, I'll come and see you. Ha. So right. I think after all these years, doesn't that frustrate you?
Absolutely. And I think there's lots of seasoned docs that are going to say, yeah, and some things have never changed in, all these years of practice, which is, I don't know. I mean, that's a whole conversation that we could go down.
Absolutely.
Is it marketing? Is it communication? What is the messaging? Is it the divisions within the profession that we've all seen at times? But what does it mean to you when you say that you feel chiropractic is misunderstood? Well, 2 questions here. What do you feel is misunderstood? And 2, do you have any opinions about what could change?
Absolutely, for both. Now, what is most misunderstood is that diversity can be a good thing, but it seems like within a profession such as ours, where there's so many different so-called techniques, that people position themselves as either better or different, or that's not right, and have opinions. But let's focus on what we do have in common as chiropractors, and going forward as a profession. And this is how it's an evolution within my own practice. How do I define chiropractic? The classic question is, so what's different about chiropractic from physiotherapy? I thought you guys are pretty well the same. Oh, that irks me. Just doesn't it irk you, Dr. Melissa?
Absolutely.
Yeah, what's the difference? Well, that actually speaks to a failure for us as a profession to communicate clearly and simply. So yes, I did wellness, and I still believe in wellness. Yes, I can be a wellness clinic. You can even brand as a wellness clinic. I can even brand as a spine clinic and Calgary Spinal Decompression Center, or I can just be Joe or Jane chiropractor. But the common thing that I learned was to communicate very simply. And to this day, I didn't always learn this. I wish I would have known this when I first started. I define chiropractic as it's simply about the alignment and function of your spine. More correctly, when you're coming in with a problem, it's for your misalignments and malfunctions of your spine that a chiropractor specializes in correcting. And it comes back to the spine. So, and then I do use pain scores because the vast majority of people that come to see me, especially in the spine clinic, they're all hurting. Mm-hmm. So doesn't mean that I'm advocating pain-based practice. I'm not. In fact, we have to serve those who, basically basic marketing. We have to address their major pains or promote pleasure, or, the opposite, like something that's luxurious. But in our world, most of it is relief, right? At first. And then we move to correction, and then we move to maintenance. And that's the most powerful thing that I learned over many, many years. And of course, losing patients. Why isn't so-and-so coming in anymore? Well, they decide to go somewhere else. Oh, that bites, doesn't it? And I learned to not take things personally, because when I say heart-centered, you can be a heart-centered person, you can be a heart-centered practitioner and chiropractor. But if you take all those cases personally, it's going to burn you out. Mm-hmm.
So what have you learned in your years to protect yourself? Because I think burnout happens. I know that's a strong word, but fatigue, emotional and physical and mental fatigue is something that I speak to certainly all my clients about. It's a hot topic, even when I've done webinars and events. And how do you protect yourself is always the question. I mean, obviously we need to protect yourself physically from injuries and looking at your technique, and we need to be getting enough rest and exercise and all the things that we tell our patients to do. How do you protect yourself then, focusing on being a heart-centered doc and giving compassionate, excellent care? How do you protect yourself from taking all that stuff home? Or what have you learned that has helped you let go of some of that?
Great question. I did relate to how in my younger years, I took a lot of that with me, which led to stress and feeling personally responsible that a patient isn't getting better. Boom, that's like a gut punch, right?
Yeah.
Or not diagnosing something and assessing them as properly as I think I could and should. And then, of course, I mentioned the patient that drops out of care and seemingly that they were a great patient. Well, so not taking it personally, how do I do that? Well, the late, great Dr. Frank Savinsky. Now, this may be before your time.
I remember him. Nope, I do.
Yes, he did a lot of presentations with Tony Palermo, who I believe is still around. Yeah. Dr. Frank used to say this. He would go, "I care, but not that much." And I really took that to heart, because I do care. Many of you listening are really in the caring, nurturing personalities, or else you wouldn't be a chiropractor. And hands-on care is even more profound than that. So we've got to learn to simply care, but not that much. So all you can do is work on the mastery of caring. Hands-on care, doing your proper due diligence, examining properly, palpating, all those things that you do. It doesn't take a lot of time to do that when you master that. but to truly care for the patient, which the number one thing is focus. Just let me give you an example. So you enter a room and you got several things going on in the background. You got a call that you're expecting and you're not focused. And I remember hearing feedback and from my staff occasionally, because they don't want to tell me this stuff, is that, oh yeah, so-and-so felt that you were really rushed. Oh, if the patient feels that, then we got to suck it up and say, yeah, I didn't do a great job there. So now how you choose to address that means clearing your conscience. Maybe on the next visit is giving that extra care and attention. Doesn't mean a lot more time, but just a lesson in being totally focused on that patient. Jim Parker, the late Jim Parker, Parker Seminars used to say present time consciousness, PTC, right? Got to have that PTC all the time. And in today's world, it is a challenge to keep that present time consciousness. Now, here's the cool thing is that when you have great present time consciousness, you will stay on time. Patients will get that, wow, I felt great after the last treatment type experience. And you will get compliance when you're consistently present time conscious. It means you're not being distracted, you're giving 100% focus, and that 3, 4, 5 minute interaction is high quality and the patient feels cared for. And that's what they're here to see you for.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, you can have busy, high volume practice and people feel like their needs are met and they're listened, they're heard, and they've got a great connection with their doc. And you can have busy practices where people leave because they feel that they were just another number. And that's all about how the doc shows up. I also think it's important, what you said, what Dr. Savinsky said rather is, I care about not that much. It's something that I find myself saying to some of my clients, or even in these conversations around deciding how to spend your time when you have a family or a young family or other interests. I mean, a big part of the Rockstar Doctor manifesto is building a practice that works for your lifestyle and that allows you to express who you are, but also allows you to be who you are when you're not in your practice and enjoy other hobbies and pursuits and maybe charities and ways that you want to give to the world. And, a lot of docs find it hard at times to separate. They have this guilt or this attachment to we're supposed to be 100% a chiropractor, which, yes, we are blessed that we have work that we love, but I'm also a mother. And when there's times that I'm not in my practice, I want to give 100% to my sons. And there was times in my career where I took less of an interest in my business life because I wanted to take more of an interest in my home life, my family life. And I think it's sometimes something that we all need to remind ourselves, like we can care and want to give amazing service and have heart and passion and excitement for the work that we do, but it isn't the only thing that we do. And there are other people in other places that demand our time as well. Have you found with, your kids are adults now, I appreciate, but when you became a father, like that must have changed your energy and your flow and your demand in your practice.
Oh my goodness. When my daughter was born or soon there afterwards or thereabouts, I still remember, oh God, please come on a Friday because I've taken the Saturday off and I don't really want to take more time off. If I could do that differently, I would have done it differently. But sure enough, I think she came on a Saturday morning.
Right.
She was born on a Saturday morning. So I would have been there. Come on. But it was like, that's how important that I felt practice was. And it's crazy. There's the business of practice, and then there's the practice of practice, and then there's the lifestyle of practice. And I've learned in many ways the hard way because I used to focus on more of the business or more of the practice. And then especially after coming off an event, a virtual event or a live event and going, okay, I got to be super focused on my practice and then forget about my family sort of thing. It's terrible. I think this is more of a guy thing, but we're just so professionally oriented. And if you are, then I'm sure you can relate. But the key is that it's all one. This is our lives. My life is my personal life, my practice life, and my business life, and they're all one. You cannot separate them. And that's the biggest, I think, mistake that I see happening out there, because I do some business coaching as well, very select. I'm still in full-time practice. And running two clinics, really two practices, really three practices, a practice within a practice, and it's highly demanding with associates and other team. So, but I do love to share great insights and gems with your listeners, with you, Dr. Melissa. I just love that, because I'm in legacy mode in my practice. Not that anything's wrong with me. In fact, I feel as vibrant. I say I'm 50 something, but I feel fit and 45. So that's my story. That's rock star, isn't it? I tell my kids
that I'm only halfway in life and practice. So I have
halfway to what? That sounds like a rock song.
Yeah. But let's talk about that. I mean, so you're feeling great. What are some of the ways that you keep your body as healthy as possible, physically, mentally, spiritually? You know, what are some of the lessons you've learned in years of practice? If you've had any challenges with your physical or mental health that have, you know, we all have these challenges that happen. We have, you know, life things happen. Sometimes people relocate, extended family members go through things. We have to balance a lot of different roles in our life. And it can be easy to have the habits that work for us get a little bit sidetracked, right? The things that keep us mentally healthy, emotionally healthy, physically healthy. So I'd love to hear from you. What are the things you're doing right now? And did you have any time where you kind of got off your routine, and how did you get back on?
Oh, wow. That's a lot of questions there. I'll just kind of distill that and say that I've learned that working more is not better.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because when I first started, I was naive enough to think that I can do this. I can work 55 hours a week. Right. And so I essentially worked Monday to Saturday, and my half day was 9 till 3. And when I was really busy, I started at 8:30 on Saturday, and then started up again on Monday at 8 o'clock. That's not terribly healthy. In fact, when my daughter was born, this is the part I missed, is I cut out Saturdays. No more Saturdays. And then I broke down because we were short a chiropractor. I broke down and worked a few Saturdays. This is pre-COVID. And I thought, what am I doing? I'm not having fun. So that's, you know, not just fun, but so this is about the same time I realized that I need to have more fun with my staff. And so I pretty well every Friday, I buy them coffee and tea, whatever they want. And I designated Fun Fridays. I started doing that a couple of years ago. It's Fun Fridays. We're still very professional, but it's lighter because it's the end of our week. We only work Monday to Friday. We've worked hard. And, you know, this is one of the number one things I realized is learn to appreciate how particular staff members like to feel appreciated. Still a hard thing for me to learn because I'm a bit of a driver. Yeah. And my massage therapist said to me, yeah, Dr. Alan, I know you're kind of military. I am not. Really? Okay. Well, I guess again, it's perceptual. That can be a good thing in the right context, being super organized and being super, you know, trying to be on time and all those things. But however, in the extreme, military is terrible, right? For trying to keep everybody happy, because then you're just telling people what to do without feedback and handing out orders. So we have Fun Fridays now. So I guess that's a mental wellness habit. The other thing I have done quite a few years ago now is made daily meditation a practice. In fact, I use an app. I won't name them right now, but I think I'm on day 76 in a row, 10-minute meditations given.
Great.
It's my morning routine. I start off with a 10-minute meditation. It just helps ground me. And it's a guided meditation. And that has been one of the most powerful things. So the mental, emotional wellness. And then I eat well. I cook, as you know.
Yeah, I was
Dr.
going to say, I know that the food is a passion of yours as well, and probably gives you a lot of joy and helps you, have some fun when you're not in the office.
Absolutely. And in fact, I have standing offer, cook for you. Make my favorite Italian or whatever. Italian is one of my favorite. And in fact, I'm going to Italy in 2 weeks. That's another mental, emotional wellness thing.
Exciting. So yeah, I mean, I love that one of your litmus tests for life is not having enough fun, because it's how I filter a lot of decisions myself personally as well. I think, is this going to bring me joy or not going to bring me joy? And a lot of people often ask me, how do you get so many things done? How do you run a practice and coach and have these events and the podcast and kids? And it feels like every time I see you, you're on your bike or drinking coffee with your friends. I'm like, yeah, I do those things. Like you said a few minutes ago, I realized that working more is not better. That actually, when I take time out of my business life consistently, that's when I get new ideas. That's where I get refreshed. That's where I get new perspectives on how I want to manage a situation, or it's where I get creative ideas too. And I'm a stickler on that with my clients, that, you need to take time out of your practice to be really focused when you're in your practice and be having fun while you're doing it. Now you mentioned also, this app that you're using for meditation, but I always love to ask docs, like, what are the resources that you go to these days? You've been in practice for a number of years. Are there seminars, books, speakers, podcasts, resources that you're using consistently that have really helped shape who you are as a doctor and a human that you'd love to share with listeners?
Well, curiously, I answer that by saying I've kind of been there, done that, and over seminared myself at one point in time in my life. And then I shifted to personal development. And that's probably one of the most powerful things I did. And I don't have one particular company or party to credit to that. Other than, I suppose, and I think I can mention him because he's worldwide, is one of the most influential shifts that I made was when I started following Mike Dooley Notes from the Universe.
Oh, yeah, I used to get those. Yeah.
Exactly. And I still get them, and I just don't read them every single day, but very tongue-in-cheek, very wise words. Sometimes it's just one line, one sentence about, as if the universe were speaking to me. And that I realized was I need to seek, on a consistent basis, inspiration from the universe, if you will, by listening to the people I treat or care for, by listening to my staff, by listening to myself, and taking what insight comes from that. And that's why I love, I don't do it enough. I live like an hour from the Rocky Mountains, but get out to the mountains and do a hike or spend some time there and get grounded. And so those are the things that help give me inspiration. And so there is no one group, but I've learned from many, like I mentioned, the Parker seminars and the late Dr. Frank Savinsky and others that I've done a lot of seminars in the past. And I kind of just realized it's now my turn to give, if you will, and create that legacy, partly through my podcast, mainly through my practice right now. Because when you practice in that, with that notion in mind, that every day is a different day, every patient's a different patient, they have different needs and wants, and I am going to give them my best. And that's a huge challenge. And I challenge you as a listener to every single day set that intention to give your very best. So therefore, staying up late, not getting enough sleep, eating terrible, drinking too much, all those things can be a huge factor in not giving 100%. So my legacy says that, do I have fun? Do I enjoy my wine and food? Absolutely. But you go, and it's, I talk about the practice because this podcast is about rock star doctors and how to live that. But family, I've had to backtrack and say, if I could have done things differently, I would have spent more quality time with my family. And we've traveled all over the world. They've come with us all over the world in traveling. But, if and not that it's the end at all. Like I say, I feel, if it sounds funny, but 35 years and I feel in my prime of practice.
Yeah.
That's where I feel right now.
Well, I love that you said a lot of the things that you just said, but the reminder that, a lot of our practice growth comes from certainly developing our clinical skills and going to seminars and being immersed in the art, philosophy, the science of chiropractic. But then much of our success in life comes from our personal growth and development. And you touching on the fact that, you working with other people or pursuing it, the notes from the universe, like the things that grow us as humans will always grow our practice as well. And I love that you're still feeling like you're so inspired and you're just sort of in your prime right now. What keeps you so inspired in your practice?
I think the is finding a groove, if you will, to do what I know I'm very good at, and that is adjusting. But after I've done a thorough analysis of that patient, even whether they're a regular patient, and keeping in mind now running a non-surgical spine clinic, oh man, I have to be sharp. And because there's cases, the typical scenario is someone comes in, I've seen all these different practitioners, and I'm on all these drugs, and you'll get this. I've had all these spinal injections and I'm worse than I was, or no better than I was like X number of years ago. So I'm going, whoa, what can I do differently? And it's a challenge. I can't help everybody. I'm not a miracle worker, but I do believe in miracles.
Yeah, I think getting inspired by the stories and the success and the, the life-changing experiences that we have is certainly what fuels me.
Right, exactly. And, I would challenge your listeners to marvel at the little miracles that happen within your own practice. And when you acknowledge those yourself and with other staff, and especially with the patient, not to claim that they're miracles, because I tell, I have one patient, and if I may share, he came in a walker, barely could walk. We did the series of treatments and things, and it's a unique protocol. And I don't claim it to be so much better than anybody else's protocol, but there is a deep care from all of our staff for him. And his goal was to cycle again to 20 kilometers. That's really, and so he said that, Doc, before I came to see you, my wife sees a chiropractor all the time. I didn't believe in chiropractic. I would never go see a chiropractor. You're the first chiropractor I've ever seen. And he's 60 somewhat, nice Italian man, 60 somewhat years old. And I think, wow, if I will try my best. If I can help you achieve that goal, I will be thrilled. And he said, Doc, you've done a miracle. And I step back and go, you know what? Your body has done a miracle of healing. I'm just trying to facilitate your healing and recovery. And I'm grateful that it's going the right direction. So he is thrilled. He said, I will always see, he says, I will always see you now. I thought, okay, well, good thing I'm still going to be in practice for a while.
Yeah, it's it never ceases to amaze me. I was saying that to people in my practice the last couple of weeks, because I've been, as we talked about earlier, celebrating my 20th year in practice. And why I'm so excited about practice still now is because of the stories, because of the everyday, because of the hope and inspiration that we're able to provide people. Oftentimes when it's been taken from them, right? They've been told they're not going to get any better. They've been told their pain's going to get worse. Their only solution they've been offered is something pharmaceutical. And that might be what some people need and want. But for the majority of people that I interact with, they're looking for alternatives. They're looking for hope. And they're looking for someone to really hear them and understand where they're at. And the fact that we have the opportunity as chiropractors to provide a healing modality for people that dramatically impacts their life is, at all ages and stages is never, it never gets dull.
Absolutely. And I congratulate you for your 20-year milestone, because there's a number of your colleagues and mine that quit before 20 years old.
Yeah, we were actually looking at the weekend, one of my classmates went to the school, and I also graduated from CMCC, and he went and took a photo of the composite that's hanging on the wall.
Right.
And we actually went through all of our classmates. And, it was remarkable to me how many were not in practice anymore, that we all knew, had changed careers or done something else.
Right.
So thank you for that. I will
Sure.
acknowledge that. But I would love to ask you the same question I asked my classmates on the weekend. And that is, if you knew what you know now, what would you tell yourself as a new grad? Like, is there anything that you wish you knew when you first graduated, within your first 5 years of practice, that you know now at 35 years?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice, easy
there's
question
lots
for you, Alan.
That would be a whole nother episode. But I would summarize that and say, be a better listener of everyone, and be slower to comment or judge.
Right.
Because when we listen to our patients, we've also got to listen to our staff, because they are our extension. And if they're afraid to speak to us and tell us about what's happening, then, we're really just creating this false reality, thinking that, well, why am I having troubles with retention? Or, they got out of pain and they're not getting my maintenance message or wellness message. Why is that? Well, maybe not ask why, but just listen and acknowledge what you've heard. Because even though, this is the challenge of practice constantly, whether it be the most difficult case in the world, a patient wants to know that they're heard. And they also want a doctor to be able to say, I'm not sure what that is right now, but we're going to do our best to try to find out. And the other thing I got to say, because I know we're winding down this episode, is that if you're a chiropractor, please learn to use your hands better and better and better. Every single day, I try to further master my skills, because I have not got it totally down. Yet there was a time in practice, and a few years ago, I don't know how many, where I felt, pretty well what I want to move and how I want to move it. Again, restore alignment and function as best I can. I could do it because of my skill set and such. So a disturbing trend is that chiropractors are not using their hands. I use some therapeutic tools. I use various things, but the most important and the most powerful thing I can do and you can do for your patient, if you're a chiropractor, is to adjust them with the best possible knowledge and skill that you can, and let their body heal from better alignment and better function. Can you fix everything? No. Can you fix osteoarthritis? No. But can you help them? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's important to recognize the simplicity of it's simple and powerful, right? Our hands and our ability to adjust clinically really well. That's something that you can take with you wherever you are. I mean, I'm sure you've adjusted your children all over the place. I've adjusted my kids in subway stations, on holidays, wherever we need to be, because I know that the power of the adjustment will restore what their body needs at any given time. And sometimes it's not the only thing, but it's a big piece of their healing. And I couldn't imagine not having the ability, if I needed another tool, and I think adjusting instruments can be great, obviously, as well, but the power of your hands, I would acknowledge as a skill that we should all be revising and and evolving as time goes on as well. So thanks for that reminder.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
So we've chatted about a lot here. I really appreciate your time. We've talked about how you evolve in your practice. We've talked about, advice you'd give your younger self. We've talked about communication, staying healthy. Last thing I'm going to ask you is, how do you define success for yourself right now?
That's a great question. I would define it as my personal feeling overall of what I've accomplished so far, and being able to be satisfied. And that's why I say I feel I'm in legacy mode, as in to give, share, like on your podcast, Dr. Melissa, Rockstar Doctor, in my own podcast, working with patients, being able to share my best knowledge and skills with anybody who I come into contact with professionally, and or that I can call a client. So I'm talking about professional success there. That I feel satisfied that I've given in that one particular interaction, whether it be 1 minute or 5 minutes or 45 minutes, that I've given my best reasonable self to that effort, means success to me. So and then let me equate it to a rock star. Are they 100% all the time? No, especially live, right? Maybe in studio, but even then, it didn't take me 35 cuts to do this one patient visit. Well, to get it right, because that's not the way it works. Every single patient visit appointment in your clinic is a performance, because some days you might not feel 100%. Some days you might not feel like you want to give present time consciousness. But if you're going to be a professional and be successful, and that's why the way I'm going to end this and define success is that I felt I gave it the best for who I was on that day. At that moment, I gave my best performance.
Love it. And you did give a good summary of the whole rock star. Those of you who haven't heard the story about how this podcast got this name or what it means, that'll come up in another conversation, or I can put the links in to where it originated from. But that's exactly it. It's doing your best and defining your own rockstar doctor life, whatever that's going to be, because that's what performers do, right? They get up over and over again. They work hard at their craft for years. They shine, even when no one cares. And they struggle, with all the same struggles that we all deal with, frustration, failure, fatigue, overwhelm, judgment, criticism. And, they find a way to keep getting up and giving it over and over again. So short and sweet summary there of the whole Rockstar Doctor Life Manifesto. But I really appreciate your time today, Alan. Listeners, you're going to want to connect with Dr. Alan. In the show notes, you're going to find the ways that you can listen to his podcast, the way you can connect with him more fully if you want to explore conversation or just visit him in his practices in Calgary. And I want to thank you again for your time today.
Thank you, Dr. Melissa. That was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
It's a great conversation.
I agree. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's show. Find out more about today's guests and everything else that we talked about in the show notes. You can also find all this content and so much more, including videos, blog posts, and how you can work with me on the Rockstar Doctor Life website. If you haven't yet reviewed the show, we'd love it if you headed on over to iTunes, subscribe, and leave us a review about what your thoughts are about future episodes for the show and what you like best. Feel free to connect with me on Instagram at Melissa Longo DC, and of course on Facebook. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.